26 code signing certificates, 7 years, and not a single exploit. The malware campaign I want to talk about never breaks into anything. It does not need a vulnerability, and it does not need you to make a mistake. It waits for you to install it. Then it waits some more. On July 31st, Trinity Cyber published a report called The Silent Watchers by Tyler Nist. 12 pages. Those 3 numbers are the whole story. Full disclosure. Trinity Cyber is a Gula Tech Adventures portfolio company, so I'll flag which findings are their telemetry alone and which ones other researchers confirmed. The report revisits 2 campaign names you have probably seen tangled together. TamperedChef, named by researcher Luke Acha in June of 2025, and EvilAI, named by Trend Micro that September. Trinity puts TamperedChef underneath the EvilAI umbrella. Unit 42 says they are 3 separate clusters. So the industry agrees on everything except what to call it. Par for the course. Here is the idea. You search for a PDF converter or a recipe helper or a calendar. You click a sponsored result on a site you have every reason to trust. You download an installer, and the installer works. There is no exploit anywhere in that chain. That is the whole trick. The application does the thing it advertised, which puts it ahead of a lot of software you paid for. PDF tools, recipe helpers, calendars, AI assistants. Categories where a person installs one thing, uses it, and forgets it is there. Nobody audits the calendar. The calendar is fine. The calendar has never lied to anybody. The installers are signed. Real certificates issued by real certificate authorities to real companies. Shell entities in Panama, Malaysia, and Delaware that publish almost nothing about themselves. 3 jurisdictions with nothing in common except a filing fee. Expel counted at least 26 code signing certificates used by this developer lineage over the last 7 years. By this past May, Unit 42 had traced the same lineage to 34. Now, one correction, because I see this repeated everywhere. A valid signature does not bypass Windows SmartScreen. Microsoft retired the EV shortcut that used to grant reputation automatically, and their own documentation as of this May says so plainly. The FastPass is gone. Everybody waits in the same line now. So what does a signature actually buy these people? 3 things. A consistent publisher identity to build reputation under. A real company name on the elevation prompt instead of unknown publisher, which is a shame because unknown publisher is the single most honest string in that entire dialog box. And a clean pass through anything that treats a signature as a verdict. That is worth 26 certificates. Then comes the part I find most interesting, the waiting. TrueSec measured 56 days between the launch of one campaign and the malicious update that turned the app into an info stealer. The command line switch was --cm equals -- full update. GData confirmed the same switch independently. 56 days. TrueSec's point is that a typical Google ad buy runs about 60. So the dwell time is not tradecraft. It is a billing cycle. They run the ad buy, collect the installs, and flip the switch on the way out. Somebody on that team is watching a renewal date, not a threat feed. When it flips, the app goes to work on the machine. It enumerates your installed security products through the registry, kills running browser processes, and uses the Windows Data Protection API to pull credentials and cookies straight out of the browser. It persists through auto-run entries and scheduled tasks, and holds an AES encrypted channel open to its operators. Encrypted because they take your privacy seriously. There is one more capability here, and it comes with 2 very different weights. Unit 42 has watched these operators stand up residential proxies on victim machines. Trinity goes further. They say some builds ask the victim for permission first in exchange for app features, a consent dialog for the botnet. And people say, yes, which raises the question of where the certificates keep coming from. The certificate trail is worth following on its own. Expel traced one lineage from Apollo Technologies to Caerus Media to OneStart Technologies, a new identity each time the previous one got revoked. 26 certificates in 7 years is not operational security. That is a subscription. To be fair to OneStart, they have publicly denied that their browser is malware, more than once. What their public posts don't address is the certificate record Expel documented. I'll link both sides below and let you read them. My favorite detail in the whole report is the decoy. On some of these lure sites, the JavaScript filters visitors, and if you don't pass the check, it hands you a real legitimate copy of WinRAR instead. Trinity's read is that it's an anti-analysis trick. Somewhere, an analyst went looking for malware and got a working archive tool. That detail is Trinity's telemetry alone. Trinity's telemetry also has the current wave of lure sites and installers. Recipe-themed sites like tiprecipe.com, file names matching their domains plus 6 random digits, spun up fast enough to be coming off a template. They also name Zillow, Forbes, and All Recipes as carrying these ads. Nobody else has named those 3. There is one piece of outside corroboration here, and it comes from an odd place. Google's Mandiant tracks a cluster it calls UNC 6468. November 2025, a backdoor called Dayshroud pushed through Malvertising inside a trojanized calendar app. This past July, the same cluster, recipe-themed executables. Trinity cites the calendar one. The recipe one is the better match, and it landed 9 days before their report. Footnotes are hard. One caution, though, and it is a useful lesson in reading attribution. Trinity calls this an espionage campaign. Mandiant does not. In those same release notes, Mandiant calls other groups North Korean espionage or financially motivated or China Nexus. Next to this one, nothing, because UNC stands for uncategorized. When Google has a theory, Google writes it down. The blank space is the finding. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop treating it as a vulnerability problem. There is nothing to patch here. No CVE is going to save you. Your exposure is whatever your people installed on their own, on purpose, because it was on the first page of results. Second, treat a code signature as an identity, not a verdict. Signed means somebody paid for a certificate. It does not mean somebody vouched for the code. It is a name tag, not a background. Third, that gap between install and activation is aimed directly at you. A sandbox that runs for a couple of minutes learns nothing about a program that does nothing for 8 weeks. Your detection has to live in what the endpoint does later and in what crosses the wire. And a soft note on that last part. Trinity Cyber, which wrote this report, does full content inspection. They stopped it at the first HTTP request before the installer ever downloaded. Trinity Cyber is a Gula Tech Adventures portfolio company, and Ron Gula is an investor. That is why I flagged their telemetry-only findings as I went. The uncomfortable version of this story is that none of it was sophisticated. It was patient, well-funded, and correctly billed. Report is linked below. I'm V. Ron.